This is an important G7 summit because it is being held after a gap of 2 years nearly, as the last summit was supposed to be hosted by Prime President Trump, which could not happen because of the pandemic. And this one is also happening in the backdrop of the severe destruction and devastation that has been caused by the pandemic, by the COVID 19 virus across continents and across economies and geographies. And therefore, it is a major challenge for the whole world. Secondly, we have seen, and as the South African president had mentioned, that the world is facing this vaccine apartheid. And there is an inequity in the distribution of this global good. And that is going to be a major challenge. Of course, we have heard that the G7 countries have committed to providing about 1 billion vaccine doses through the COVAX and other facilities, of which 500 million have been already committed by the US. But we have also seen their main problem that the countries have really generated themselves, especially the countries from the north, the rich countries. They have had the monopoly on this, and they were not able to supply or share it with the countries, different countries in the world. That's the problem. And in India also, we have faced the supply issues of ingredients. While we did whatever we could in the early days, in the spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, so it's extremely important. But fortunately, now the G7, as you remember, as you know, that when it was made some 45, 50 years ago, at that time, the G7 countries used to really control the economy, was more than 60% of the global economy. But since then, several major economies have come up. China is one of the major examples. And the total GDP worth, one could say, is about 40% of the global GDP of the G7 countries. And therefore, now they have a newer challenge in countries like India, also emerging as a major economy and could become the third largest economy in the world in a few years' time. So, this is a challenge that they want to have the democracies of the world together. And that's why they build back better. That formula that they are, or slogan that they are engineering, says it all. And therefore, it is important that the global economic recovery is extremely important for all the countries. And it is expected, as the World Bank report recently said, that the world economies will grow by about 5.3% in 2022, which is a very good thing actually, if it happens. But you never know with the virus how it's going to behave, how it's going to shatter the economies. But it has, if you were to see in the past, whenever we have had the pandemics, generally thereafter there is a short term growth, and that happens. But how the short term growth is to be extended beyond, and how it has to be ensured that it is a fair and equitable growth, that it is not governed by protectionism or decimation of the multilateral institutions that happened during the President Trump's 4 years. We have seen it. So, fortunately, President Biden is back on the multilateral track, and we see that that will happen. Secondly, we are also looking at the climate change, which is one of the biggest challenges that the countries are facing. And we have seen that it is important that by the time the global the summit in Glasgow is held, there are certain new commitments are taken. There is a fairness in that as well. And for that, the G7 would definitely require countries like China, India, and Russia. Russia was expelled because after the Crimea issue that happened. And so we see that these are the 4 or 5 thing, and then how to really fight the it's fight the global pandemics in future. How can we create resilient infrastructures? How can we take care of the health? Those are the very important things. In my view, there are 3 H's or 4 H, so to be precise, if you look at from our point of view, is that number 1 is health, number 2 is hunger, H, and number 3 is habitat, and number 4 is high tech. High tech includes green technologies. So it is very important that we take care of these issues in a very proper manner. I'm happy that India has been invited to be part of G7. We have been associated with for quite some time now. We are very important members of the G20, which is another major group, which represents very large number of economies in the world. And we will be hosting it in 2023. So in the meantime, India being last time French president also invited at the Biarritz, and where India was called as a goodwill partner. And therefore, Prime Minister Modi will be participating the second time, and he'll be speaking at 2 or 3 sessions, which are the outreach sessions, basically. It shows India's growing importance in the world. And I must say that whatever decisions we have taken in promoting vaccines or the global health supply things as a global good will go a long way. India has been trying to get the waivers with South Africa and China and some other countries on the vaccine productions. It's extremely important. But that is something in which the G7 itself is divided. The European countries are not on the same page as we are. So we have that situation, and therefore it is important that we continue